Rain hammered my shoulders as I stood on the porch, suitcase clutched in trembling hands. My mother's face appeared in the doorway, twisted with disgust. "Marry him, and you're dead to us," she hissed. Behind her, my father's shadow loomed. I opened my mouth to speak, but the door slammed. The locks clicked. Through the glass, I heard her whisper, "You chose dirt over blood." My suitcase sat abandoned on the steps, soaking in the storm. I didn't cry. I just stared at that closed door, at the home where I'd grown up, at the family who'd raised me to believe love mattered more than money. They lied. That was the night I stopped being their daughter. My name is Mia West, and this is the story of how my blood became the only thing they couldn't buy. The rain kept falling, but I turned away from that house, from those people, and walked toward the truck idling at the end of the driveway. Eli waited there, just like he promised. He always kept his promises. They never did. I met Eli 6 months before everything shattered. My car broke down on Route 14, smoke pouring from under the hood. I called my father first. He said he was busy at the office. I called my brother Mark. He laughed and told me to call a tow truck. So I did. Eli showed up in a dusty truck with Morris Auto Repair painted on the side. His hands were oil-stained, his smile genuine. He fixed my radiator in 20 minutes, refused to charge me full price. "Nobody should be stranded," he said. I went back the next week with cookies as thanks. He invited me to coffee. My parents found out on our third date. My mother clutched her pearls. "A mechanic? Mia, what will people think?" My father was worse. "You're embarrassing this family," he growled. "Oil-stained hands will never touch West money." I looked at Eli's hands, at the calluses from honest work, and thought they were the most beautiful hands I'd ever seen. They fixed things. They built things. They were real. My father's hands only counted money he didn't earn himself. The chapel was small and empty. No organ music, no flower arrangements, no guests in designer suits. Eli's cousin stood as witness. A tired pastor officiated. I wore a simple white dress I bought at a discount store. No father walked me down the aisle. No mother adjusted my veil. When the pastor asked if anyone objected, silence filled the room, but I imagined my family's voices screaming from miles away. Eli slipped a silver ring on my finger. It wasn't diamonds, but it was paid for with his own money, earned through his own sweat. "I'd do it again," I whispered when he kissed me. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky like the heavens themselves were marking this moment. The cousin took one photo on a disposable camera. That picture still hangs in our kitchen today. I'm smiling wider than I ever did at family dinners, at charity galas, at country club brunches. I was free. The exile had begun, and somehow, that felt like liberation. I tried to reach them for months. I called on my mother's birthday. No answer. I sent a card on Christmas. It came back, unopened, with "return to sender" scrawled across it. Then, on a Tuesday in March, a letter arrived. My father's handwriting. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside was a check for $5,000 and one typed sentence: "Consider this the last support you'll ever receive." No signature. No blessing. Just money to ease their conscience. I stared at that check for a long time. Eli found me at the kitchen table, tears finally breaking through. "Cash it," he said gently. "Use their guilt to build something better." I shook my head. I walked to the fireplace and held that check over the flames until it curled and blackened. "I'm not their charity case," I told him. The ashes scattered across the hearth. That night, we made a promise. We'd build our lives without them, without their money, without their approval. We'd prove them wrong by succeeding on our own terms. 3 years passed. We saved enough to buy a small house on the east side of town. Eli worked 12-hour days at Morris Auto. I managed the books and took a job at the library. Life was quiet. Simple. Happy. Then I got pregnant. When Hannah was born, with Eli's dark hair and my green eyes, I felt complete. I took one photo of her, swaddled in yellow, and sent it to my mother with a short note, "You have a granddaughter. Her name is Hannah." The response came within hours. An email. 6 words. "Do not contact us again." I sat in the nursery, holding Hannah, and cried for the last time over them. Eli found me there. He rocked us both. "One day they'll regret this," he whispered. I didn't believe him then. How could they regret something they chose so deliberately? But I held my daughter close and realized something important. I'd broken a cycle. Hannah would grow up knowing love wasn't conditional. She'd never wonder if she was good enough. I'd already given her more than they ever gave me. For years later, rumors started spreading through town. West Construction was struggling. Projects were delayed. Contractors weren't getting paid. I heard it first at the grocery store from Stella Martinez, whose husband worked as a foreman. "Your brother's running things now," she said carefully. "Your dad stepped back last year. Health problems, they say." I nodded, said nothing, and pushed my cart away. At home, I searched online. Articles mentioned financial restructuring and management transitions. Mark's face appeared in a photo at a ribbon-cutting ceremony, wearing an expensive suit and a fake smile I recognized from childhood. He'd always been good at pretending. The comments section was brutal. Former employees complained about unpaid wages. Suppliers mentioned bounced checks. I closed my laptop and stared out the window. Part of me wanted to feel satisfaction. Another part just felt sad. The empire my father built with his bare hands was crumbling under my brother's greed. Karma wasn't loud. It was patient. And it was finally stirring. The silver Lexus appeared outside our auto shop on a Tuesday morning. I was reorganizing the waiting room when I saw it through the window. My heart stopped. Mark stepped out, wearing sunglasses and a tailored suit that probably cost more than our mortgage payment. He walked in like he owned the place, glancing around with thinly veiled disgust. "Mia," he said. Not "Hey, sis." Not "Long time." Just my name. "Mark," I replied coldly. He removed his sunglasses. His eyes were tired. "Dad's not doing well. Mom wants to talk." I folded my arms across my chest. "You've ignored me for 6 years. Suddenly you want to talk?" He sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Look, this isn't easy for me either. But it's serious. He's in the hospital. They're running tests." Something in his voice cracked. Real fear. I studied him carefully. The brother who used to pull my hair and steal my Halloween candy. The brother who called Eli Grease Monkey at Christmas dinner. "What does this have to do with me?" I asked. He met my gaze. "Everything." The hospital smelled like antiseptic and desperation. Mark led me down sterile hallways to room 347. I stopped at the door. Through the window, I saw my father lying in bed, tubes in his arms, monitors beeping. He looked smaller than I remembered. Fragile. My mother sat beside him, her perfect hair now streaked with gray. She looked up and saw me. Her eyes filled with something between hope and shame. I stepped inside. "Mia," she whispered. My father's eyes fluttered open. He stared at me like I was a ghost. The doctor entered, clipboard in hand. "You must be the daughter," he said. "We've been waiting for you. Your father has a rare complication. He needs a blood transfusion from a direct genetic match. AB negative with a specific antigen marker." He paused. "It's extremely rare. We've checked the family. Your mother's not a match. Neither is your brother." All eyes turned to me. The doctor continued. "But according to your father's medical records, you share the exact genetic profile. You're the only viable donor we've found." The room went silent except for the heart monitor's steady beep. Mark broke the silence first. You're a match, aren't you? His voice carried a mix of hope and demand. I nodded slowly, not taking my eyes off my father. The man who taught me to ride a bike. The man who slammed a door in my face during a rainstorm. He struggled to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. After everything, you still owe us this. Something inside me snapped, but I kept my face calm. I smiled faintly. Oh, you? That's an interesting choice of words. My mother stood up, reaching for my hand. I stepped back. Please, Mia. He'll die without it. I looked at her carefully manicured nails, her designer purse hanging on the chair, her perfect mask finally cracking. You told me I was dead to you, I said quietly. Now you want my blood to save him? Mark moved forward. This isn't the time for grudges. He's our father. I turned to him. He stopped being my father when he chose his pride over his daughter. The doctor cleared his throat uncomfortably. I'll give you all some privacy. He left. The three of them stared at me, waiting. I found my mother in the hospital cafeteria an hour later. She sat alone, coffee untouched, staring at nothing. I slid into the seat across from her. She looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. I'll help, I said. Her face lit up. But not for free. The hope died. What do you want? Money? I shook my head. I want the truth. All of it. Why you really cut me off. Why Dad is so desperate to keep me away. What you've been hiding. She looked away. Mia, this isn't the time for, it's exactly the time, I interrupted. You need something from me. For once, I have the power here. So before I agree to anything, I want access to Dad's medical records, the company financial statements, and an honest conversation. No lies. No excuses. Her hands trembled around the coffee cup. Your brother won't allow that. I leaned forward. Then Dad dies. Your choice. It was cruel. I knew it. But I'd learned cruelty from the best. She stared at me for a long moment. Finally, she whispered, okay. My mother unlocked my father's office at their house that evening. Mark was at the hospital keeping watch. The room still smelled like leather and cigars. File cabinets lined the walls. I started with the medical documents she'd brought from the hospital. Birth certificates. Health records. Insurance claims. I scanned each page carefully. Then I noticed something odd. A second insurance policy I'd never heard about. Dated 2 years ago. The beneficiary wasn't my mother. It was Mark. I pulled more files. Invoices for West Construction. Payments to shell companies I didn't recognize. Wire transfers to offshore accounts. My hands moved faster. Property deeds. Mortgage documents. The family house was refinanced 3 times in 4 years. Every loan went to covering company debts. Mark's signature appeared everywhere, sometimes forging my father's name. The dates didn't match. The amounts didn't add up. This wasn't just mismanagement. This was fraud. Systematic, deliberate theft. My mother stood in the doorway. You knew, I said without looking up. She didn't deny it. We didn't have a choice. I laughed bitterly. You always have a choice. I turned to face her. How long? My mother collapsed into my father's leather chair. 2 years. Maybe 3. I don't know exactly when it started. Tears streaked her carefully applied makeup. Mark said he was investing in growth opportunities. New equipment. Better contracts. Your father was too sick to check the books carefully. She wiped her eyes. By the time we realized what was happening, we were in too deep. The house, the cars, everything is collateral for loans Mark took out. I sat across from her. And you stayed quiet. She nodded miserably. I couldn't lose everything, Mia. The shame, the gossip, the looks at the country club. I built my entire life around being Mrs. West. Without that, who am I? I stared at this woman who raised me, who taught me to set a proper table and smile at boring dinner parties. You're the woman who chose a lie over her daughter, I said quietly. That's who you are. She sobbed openly now. You wouldn't understand. You chose poverty. You chose exile. You don't know what it's like to lose everything. I stood up. I lost my family. But I gained my soul back. Can you say the same? I spent the next 2 days gathering evidence. Eli helped, staying up late while I photographed documents and created spreadsheets. We traced the money trail. Shell companies led to fake invoices. Fake invoices led to personal accounts. Mark had siphoned nearly $2 million over 3 years. He'd used the company as his personal bank, gambling on failed investments and buying luxuries while contractors went unpaid. The beautiful part? He'd been sloppy. Arrogant. He never expected anyone to check his work. Certainly not his disowned sister. I printed everything. Bank statements. Forged signatures. Email threads I found on my father's old laptop. Text messages between Mark and his accountant discussing creative bookkeeping. It was all there. A complete picture of greed destroying a family business. For the first time in 6 years, I didn't feel like the outcast daughter. I felt like the woman holding the truth. And truth, I'd learned, was the sharpest weapon of all. I organized everything into a folder labeled West Construction Financial Review. Then I made copies. 3 sets. One for me. One for the hospital. And one for the district attorney, just in case. My father's condition worsened overnight. The doctors gave him 48 hours without a transfusion. My mother called 6 times. I ignored the first 5. On the 6th, I answered. Please, Mia. Whatever you need, we'll do it. Just save him. I stood by the window of our small house, watching Hannah play in the backyard with Eli. She was laughing, chasing fireflies in the evening light. This was peace. This was family. This was everything they'd rejected. I'll do it, I said finally. My mother's relief poured through the phone. Thank you. Thank you so much. When can you? Tomorrow morning. But Mom, there's something you need to know. After this, we're done. All of us. I'm saving his life, but I'm not saving your lies. Silence. What do you mean? I watched Hannah catch a firefly, her face glowing with wonder. You'll understand soon enough. I hung up. Eli came inside, curious. You sure about this? I nodded. I'm giving him what he needs. But not what he wants. The donation took 3 hours. I lay in a hospital bed while machines hummed and my blood flowed through tubes to my father 2 rooms away. A nurse monitored my vitals. You're doing a brave thing, she said kindly. I didn't feel brave. I felt empty. When it was done, they gave me juice and crackers. My mother tried to hug me. I stepped back. He'll wake up in a few hours, the doctor said. The transfusion should stabilize him. I nodded and turned to leave. On the table beside my father's bed, I placed a sealed manila envelope. Written across the front in black marker, truth. My mother noticed it. What's that? I met her eyes. Everything you were too scared to face. I walked out before she could respond. No dramatic speeches. No tearful confessions. Just the truth, delivered quietly, the way justice should be. In the parking lot, Eli waited by the truck. How do you feel? He asked. I leaned against him, suddenly exhausted. Like I just closed a door I should have closed 6 years ago. Mark found the envelope first. According to my mother's hysterical phone call 2 hours later, He'd gone to check on Dad and saw it sitting there. He opened it. Inside were printed copies of every fraudulent document I'd found. Bank statements. Forged signatures. Shell company registrations. Email evidence of deliberate theft. And a handwritten note on top, "You taught me to choose blood wisely." I finally did. The district attorney receives copies tomorrow unless full restitution begins immediately. My mother's voice shook. "Mia, what have you done?" I sat calmly in our living room. "I saved his life. Now I'm saving his legacy from the son who was destroying it." "But the scandal," she pleaded. "Everyone will know. The newspapers, the creditors, our friends, your friends," I corrected. "And yes, they'll know. The truth tends to spread." My father took the phone then, his voice weak but angry. "You vindictive little," I hung up. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. I'd done what needed to be done. I gave him my blood to save his body. But I wouldn't let him keep poisoning everything else with lies. The phone rang again. I turned it off. Outside, the evening was peaceful. The scandal broke 3 days later. Someone leaked the documents to the press. Not me, officially, but I had mailed copies to the local newspaper's investigative team with a simple note, "Public interest story. West construction fraud." The headline read, "Local business empire built on lies, family company faces fraud investigation." Within hours, it was everywhere. News websites. Radio shows. Social media. The comments section filled with angry former employees sharing stories of unpaid wages and broken promises. Contractors posted photos of bounced checks. Suppliers detailed months of excuses. The perfect West family reputation crumbled in real time. I watched it unfold from my laptop while Hannah colored at the kitchen table. Eli read the articles over my shoulder. "No going back now," he said quietly. I nodded. Never wanted to go back. My phone buzzed with blocked calls. Reporters, probably. Maybe family friends. Maybe my mother again. I silenced it and closed the laptop. The truth was out. What happened next was out of my hands. But for the first time in 6 years, I felt light. The weight of their secrets was no longer mine to carry. My mother appeared at my door 3 days after the news broke. No designer clothes this time. Just jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back, her eyes swollen from crying. I almost didn't recognize her without the armor of perfection. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. I let her in. We sat in my modest living room, the furniture second-hand but comfortable. She looked around, taking in the life I'd built. Family photos on the walls. Hannah's drawings on the refrigerator. Eli's work boots by the door. "You're happy here," she said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. "Why did you do this?" she finally asked. "Why destroy everything?" I poured her a glass of water she didn't touch. "I didn't destroy anything, Mom. I just stopped pretending the building wasn't already on fire." She flinched. "Your father's devastated. Mark has lawyers. They're saying you stole confidential documents." I laughed. "I had your permission to access those files, remember? You gave me the key." Her face fell. She'd forgotten that detail. "What do you want from us, Mia? Revenge?" I shook my head. "I wanted nothing from you. But you came to me. You needed me. So I helped, but on my terms." She stood to leave. At the door, she turned. "Was it worth it?" I thought about the question. Yes. The town turned quickly. Within a week, people who'd whispered about me marrying beneath my station were now stopping me at the grocery store to say, "You did the right thing." Mrs. Patterson, who'd snubbed me at church for years, approached me in the produce section. "I always knew something was off with that family," she said. "Your brother fired my nephew without cause." I accepted her words with a slight nod, saying nothing. At the library where I still worked part-time, my coworkers treated me differently. Not with pity anymore, but with respect. Stella Martinez hugged me in the parking lot. "Thank you," she whispered. My husband finally got his back pay. The court froze the company accounts and made them pay everyone they owed. I hugged her back. "I'm glad." It was strange being on this side of public opinion. Years ago, they'd judged me for loving Eli. Now they praised me for exposing my family. I didn't do it for them, for their approval or validation. I did it because it was right. But their support reminded me that truth has a way of revealing who people really are. A letter arrived 2 weeks later. Hospital stationery. My father's handwriting, shakier than before. I stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Inside, one sentence: "If you still have my blood in your veins, come see me." I almost threw it away. Almost. But something stopped me. Closure, maybe. Curiosity about what he'd say now that his perfect world had collapsed. Or maybe I just needed to see him one last time to confirm I'd made the right choice. I told Eli I was going. He offered to come with me. I shook my head. This is something I need to do alone. The hospital felt different this time. Less threatening. I walked through those sterile halls with my head high, not as a desperate daughter seeking approval, but as a woman who'd saved a life and exposed a truth. He was in a different room now. Smaller. The insurance had changed after the scandal. I knocked once and walked in. He sat in a wheelchair by the window, thinner, older, diminished. "You came," he said. I stayed by the door. "You asked me to." My father gestured to the empty chair. I didn't sit. "You ruined us," he said. His voice was weak, but the anger still burned underneath. I met his eyes calmly. "No, Dad. You ruined yourself the moment you slammed that door in my face." He looked away, jaw clenched. "I gave you everything growing up. Private schools. Dance lessons. College tuition. And you threw it back in my face for a mechanic." I felt the old arguments rising but pushed them down. "You gave me things. You never gave me the choice to be myself." He scoffed. "That's therapy talk. In the real world, reputation matters. Status matters. You chose to embarrass this family. I chose love," I corrected. "You chose pride." We sat in silence. Finally, he spoke again, his voice different now. Smaller. "Was my blood really the only thing that could save me?" I nodded. AB negative with the rare antigen. 1 in 10 million. The doctors tested everyone. He laughed bitterly. The daughter I disowned was the only one who could keep me alive. Do you see the irony? I did. It was almost poetic. For the first time, he said quietly, "I see regret instead of pride in your eyes." My father's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "There's something you need to know. Something I never told you." I waited. He reached for a folder on the nearby table with trembling hands. "Years ago, when you first started dating Eli, I tried to find a way to cut you out of the family will. I went to lawyers. They said I needed proof you weren't really my daughter." My heart went cold. He continued. "So I altered your medical records. Changed some details to make it look like there were inconsistencies in your blood type. Enough to raise questions about paternity." I couldn't breathe. "You tried to erase me genetically?" He nodded, unable to meet my eyes. "But the recent test proved it. The doctors ran a full genetic panel for the transfusion. You're mine. Undeniably. The match is too perfect to fake." He looked up at me then, tears in his eyes. "The very proof I forged to deny you ended up saving my life. Your blood was the only blood that could." The room spun. All those years of rejection, and he'd even tried to deny I was his daughter. Why are you telling me this now? He wiped his eyes. Because you deserve to know what kind of man I am. What kind of man would destroy evidence of his own child to protect his pride? The house went up for sale 3 weeks later. I drove past it once with Hannah in the back seat. That's where Mommy grew up, I told her. She pressed her face to the window. It's big. Yes, I agreed. But not happy. The for sale sign swayed in the breeze. West Construction officially filed for bankruptcy. The courts forced liquidation of assets to repay creditors and former employees. Mark disappeared. My mother mentioned he'd fled to somewhere overseas, beyond the reach of prosecutors. The legal battles would take years, but he'd never work in this state again. My mother moved into a small apartment on the south side. I saw her once at the grocery store. We nodded to each other but didn't speak. Some distances are too far to cross, even with blood ties. The country club friends who'd once filled her social calendar were conspicuously absent. Scandal is contagious, and they'd quarantined her from their perfect lives. I didn't feel satisfaction watching it all collapse. I felt something quieter. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just the natural consequence of lies finally catching up with liars. I drove home, where Eli was fixing Hannah's bicycle in the driveway. 6 months later, Eli and I bought the old Morris Auto Repair Shop. The owner was retiring. We renamed it West and Honest Repairs. People smiled at the name. Some understood the double meaning. Others just appreciated the straightforward message. We hired 3 mechanics and expanded the waiting room. Business was steady. Word of mouth brought customers who appreciated fair pricing and quality work. I managed the books, handled customer service, and watched our small business grow. One afternoon, a young woman came in with a broken-down sedan. She was crying, saying she couldn't afford repairs. I saw myself in her desperation. We fixed her car for cost, just parts, no labor. Pay it forward someday, I told her. She hugged me. These small moments felt more meaningful than any charity gala my mother had hosted. Hannah started kindergarten. Her teacher said she was kind to everyone. Eli and I attended parent meetings and soccer games. Our life was ordinary in the most beautiful way. Every bolt Eli tightened felt like reclaiming a piece of dignity. Every invoice I wrote felt like proof we'd built something real. No lies. No fraud. Just honest work and honest love. At night, I slept peacefully. No family secrets weighing on my conscience. Just dreams of tomorrow. I visited my father's grave on a cold morning in November. He'd passed 3 months after our hospital conversation. Heart failure. The doctor said his body never fully recovered from years of stress. The funeral was small. My mother was there. Mark called in from overseas but didn't return. I stood at the back and left before anyone could approach me. Today, I came alone. The headstone was simple granite. Beloved father and husband, it read. I almost laughed at the lie even in death. But I'd brought something. A single white rose. I placed it carefully on the frost-covered ground. You said I chose dirt over blood, I whispered. Funny thing is, Dad, my blood's the only reason your name's still remembered. The wind picked up, scattering dead leaves across the cemetery. I pulled my coat tighter. I forgive you, I said quietly. Not because you earned it, but because I'm tired of carrying anger. I turned to walk away, feeling lighter than I had in years. Behind me, the rose trembled in the wind. Justice hadn't screamed. It had spoken softly, through blood that couldn't be denied, through truth that refused to stay buried. I got in my car where Eli waited, Hannah singing in the back seat. We drove home together, toward a future built on honesty. The past was finally buried. And I was finally free.